Okay. Uh, Hi and welcome, you guys. I'm Sarah Cooperman. I'm the CEO of SCW Fitness Education and the CEO of Water in Motion and Seat Programming. I'm really excited about this webinar. We have over 300 people that are registered. And you know, it's a webinar and it's a podcast, so we'll make sure all of you get a recording to this. The Ozempic Effects, Programming and Partnerships with Clubs. I've got a fantastic team of panelists, and I'm just going to dive right in. I want to introduce you Jim Lavelle. Jim is an adjunct faculty member for the Masters of Integrative Medicine program at the George Washington School of Medicine, as well as the clinical co-chair at the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. He has authored over 26 books. He's currently the Chief Science Officer at Lifetime. Welcome, Jim. And then we've got Dr. Renee Rogers with us, who I had the good fortune of attending her session at Idea World, and I hunted her down like a dog, finding her through LinkedIn. She specializes in the biobehavioral healthy lifestyle and interventions, integrating them with medical care and designing platforms to affect meaningful behavior changes. And again, I mentioned that I did meet her at IDEA, and what I really appreciated is her talking about lifestyle and managing obesity, chronic conditions, and healthy aging. And Mike Hansen is with us today. Mike brings us 25 years, over 2 decades of experience in health, fitness, and technology with expertise in marketing and finance. I read an absolutely fantastic article that he authored for CBI with the Health and Fitness Association, formerly IRSA. And then Eric, I also had the good fortune to meet at Idea World through my good friend Bob Esqueri, and he's one of the nation's leading clinical exercise physiologists and health educators. And he has over 25 years experience in health promotion, and he's presented at over 195 national, international conferences. So welcome, everybody. I'm so excited you joined us, and they have our fantastic creative director, Sean Senejan, with us from SCW. We're going to start off with you, Jim. How do the GLP-1, Ozempic and Wegovy drugs affect the body?
Yeah, well, it's pretty straightforward. One of the biggest problems we have is insulin resistance or diabetes. Half of the population is overweight, obese, and they have insulin resistance. So GLP-1s in specific, they change the way your body is signaling glucose and insulin regulation. So they're going to improve the way that your body's using glucose, and then therefore also reduce the amount of insulin that's needed. And when you reduce insulin resistance, you can lose weight. The other piece that happens, if you're looking at Mounjaro, is it helps to slow gastric emptying time, has a lot of different benefits. Obviously, you're going to burn fat more efficiently, improve glucose regulation, but it also helps with appetite control as well. So those are the big aspects to the GLP-1s.
Fantastic. And Renee, do me a favor, elaborate a little bit on that and how we see people using this as and I know you hate this term, but I'm going to do it anyway, weight loss.
Yeah. So, these drugs are FDA approved technically for the treatment of obesity, right? Or a BMI of 27 or higher with an obesity related condition is technically, right, what you qualify for the medication. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's what it's indicated for, right? It's indicated for the treatment of the metabolic dysfunction of obesity, as Jim just it was perfectly laid out. I think one of the biggest crux when we work with patients on this is, and someone that has struggled with severe obesity, is the concept of food noise. When you have that metabolic level of dysfunction or long-term obesity, there tends to be stronger appetite signaling. And when you suppress what you eat, right, through caloric restriction, that appetite hunger signaling can be even stronger. We also see that folks don't know when to turn off hunger, or even if they've eaten a meal, they consistently feel that way. And we're finding that these GLP-1 drugs, base drugs, are doing amazing job at helping to suppress the food noise. You feel satiated or fuller longer. You're not as hungry in between meals. And overall, that's causing less intake, assisting with the reduction in body weight.
And it's so interesting. You talk about that this is a prescription now that it's readily available. This kind of sound kind of crazy, but here I was at a bat mitzvah and I'm sitting next to my cousins that are, I hope they don't ever watch this webinar, but they are obese, significantly overweight. They both were on Ozempic. I was shocked. And then, and their insurance company was paying for it. And then across the table, my cousin's sister was saying she tried, because they were obese as well. I have a lovely family and she's obese as well. And she can't get on the insurance. So her insurance was denying it. So I wonder where it's going. And I was fascinated to see that Lifetime was going to be working with individuals on these drugs. Jim, can you share just a little bit? And I promise Eric and Mike, I will get to you shortly.
Yeah, we are going to be utilizing the GLP-1s and the dual action agonists for people, but we also are going to be at the same time creating behavior modification programs, teaching them how to eat. A lot of people have to learn about the reward cascade. You know, Renee mentioned that earlier, and I'm real big into understanding that reward trigger and why that's occurring. We look at their labs. We look at their body composition. We get them with a trainer. They have a dietitian that's working with them, and they're checking in regularly. And then we're looking at their biomarkers on a regular basis to make sure it's not just about are they losing weight. It's not just about are we getting them to think better about their food. We want them to do it safely. And so we actually do a titration program where we start very low with our doses and then move up to the point where they're losing weight, but not in a drastic amount. Say a couple pounds a week we'll accept. We don't want people, dropping massive weight. And then we'll hold that smaller dose. And that's kind of the way we've decided to do it, is to work with people so that when it's time to get them off of it, it's not such a big imposition on their chemistry because they haven't been doing such a big dose. And so we're very bullish on the program we've put together. We're very happy about the way we've put a coordinated program with physicians, nurse practitioners and PAs, dietitians, professional fitness instructors, as well as health concierge member teams to be able to really help track that person's experience.
And that's great to do. And Eric, we're also looking at trying to get these type of programs. How is this going to affect the fitness industry? Because I have to say, I look at my cousins, it's, a lot of it's not their fault. It's genetics. And that's what we have to deal with. So, Eric, how are we going to be able to deal with some of these people that are on weight loss drugs and bring them into our health clubs? And is this going to be, do we see this as an opportunity or do we see this as a threat to our industry?
Well, I see it as an unprecedented opportunity with the caveat. And I've spoken with, so I was at URSA, I was at IDEA. I get calls every week from people from health club chains saying, how can we learn more about this? And I basically, with my business coach, Bob Asquari, we started writing a manual because we think that it's important for the industry to really elevate their game in terms of what they know as trainers, because the type of programming here is going to be so important. And I had mentioned before we went on air that, Ann Gilbert, who is, great colleague in the industry, she has her weight loss people start in the pool and then they transition to land training. And that's something that I never thought about, 6, 8, 10 weeks ago. And now I'm starting to develop, specific types of programs that people need. And I say that as Renee and I have discussed, and she's talked about, we're nurturing relationships, we're educating the trainers, we're educating the owners and the operators to say that, well, this is not just a health club per se anymore. We want to move in the direction that they're doing at Lifetime and Equinox, that these are longevity programs. And I think that's got to be one of the most important concepts for the industry to embrace in the next couple of years is that we're not just having you come in with a key and do your own workout. If you're on a weight loss program, if you're on a GLP-1, you're going to work with a trainer. Like Jim said, you've got a whole staff of people that are working with you, and we're going to bring you on a journey, and you want to be a part of that for a long, long time.
And Mike, so I think, Eric, what you're talking about is this is a wellness opportunity. This is an opportunity for the fitness industry. And if you don't have all the scientific people behind you and the medical community behind you, let's say you're a smaller gym, an independent gym, how would you say that we would be able to integrate some of these programs? Or do you even recommend that we do this, Mike?
Was that to me or to Eric?
No, that's to you.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think you have to integrate the programs in there, because consumer behavior, you have obviously doubling the exercise output, as I mentioned earlier, right? You go from, I think Morgan Stanley's survey was around 35% of people were exercising previously to the drug, and then 71% while on the drug, right? And so you've got to still take people through that lifestyle change and that opportunity there. I see this as nothing but an opportunity for programming. I did an independent survey myself to the users outside of any commission study, and I had a report back that said up to 50% of people wanted a coach while on the drug. The number that were getting coached, much lower.
Yeah.
And let's talk about how you think they should be coached. Do you think it's effective to do group exercise programs? Renee, I think you approached this when we were at the IDEA convention. Is it a group exercise program, or are we talking about personal training, or are we talking about small group training?
Yes, I think such a great question, right? And the human is the human is your answer, the individual human. I hate to say that, right? But, you know, I've done extensive qualitative work on patients taking these medications, which hopefully is going to be published here in the next month or so, I can share with all of you. But it's some of the highlights of that work. I mean, we've heard patients express very clearly that they have concerns about entering the gym, though. While they desire doing it, they have significant concerns, and they have concerns over the way that they've been received major weight stigma from fitness trainers, and just being bold and honest, because we want to do better. We want to do better this time around. And this isn't a fad, to Jim's point. You know, we want lifelong, and as Eric said, users in the gym. So how do we transition them appropriately? And that is really coming at it from a person-centered human standpoint. And when I've talked to folks, I do agree. I think they're looking for some one-on-one to begin, especially if they haven't had experience. But let's be clear, there's a whole spectrum of folks that are taking these medications that have said, been there, done that. I've either had a terrible stigmatizing experience, or I've been there and I've done every program. What value are you going to bring me in terms of what is exercise actually going to do for my weight loss? And that is where we change the conversation and say, this isn't about your weight. This is about you and what you need and what's going to make you feel and function your best. This isn't a method-centered one-size-fits-all deal. And so I think that is huge. So if they want to be in a group, let's get them in a group. Have the options available. If they need you one-on-one to transition the right way, that's the strategy you need to take.
Yeah, and I fully agree with that. I also see that the small group training provides that support if it's away. So they don't have to be in the general gym if there's like a private area where they can work out, or working out one-on-one. And Jim, I kind of interrupted you, so please.
No, I think sometimes it's just a financial piece. I mean, some people can afford group class. Some people can only afford, they can afford a personal trainer. I think more importantly, it becomes an institution or facility, or that individual boutique gym. They have to have a policy of how are we going to work with people that are on these medications, right? Are we just going to simply give them a get out of jail free card, come in when you want? Or are we really going to take an active role in helping to facilitate them getting on a more comprehensive structure, whether we partner with other healthcare professional groups in a community? We're fortunate at Lifetime. I mean, it was incredible for me when I walked in. I got carte blanche. I could hire docs. I got nurse practitioners. I mean, and I come from a history of running integrative medicine clinics and publishing. So, I mean, this was easy. But I think for that small boutique, I think it's a massive opportunity but it has to be grounded in how are we going to really look at this? Because this is a new era. This is people on drug therapy coming in to do wellness, and we're wanting to promote that in a way that is longevity, right? And perform. I call it performance health too, because everybody just wants to perform at their best. So I do think there's some of those dynamics that go on. Affordability. What am I walking into? And what services can you tether, even if you don't have it's kind of the wherewithal or what we're doing at Lifetime.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I enjoy is Debbie Bellinger just brought this to my attention. What about online training, lifestyle coaching? It's a huge opportunity for the fitness industry.
Yeah.
Mike, you're chopping a bit here.
I was going to address one thing around sort of the cost side of the equation, because it's something that I had focused on. So the consumer spending from unhealthy habits to healthy habits, I call it the wellness wallet. And I quantified it based on the reduction in fast food spend, the reduction in alcohol, the reduction in snacks, the reduction in going out to eat was about $257 per month. And I took the data that was getting reported back on the reduction, and it's getting shifted into health, beauty, and fitness. So you can't just say it's purely fitness, right? Because some people are spending more money on plastic surgery. I always call it sort of the gold rush effect of sometimes there's businesses around the gold rush that are selling picks and hammers that are making money. That spend is shifting, but that spend is there.
Yes.
Well, and one of the things that I quickly want to say is that this is also an opportunity for health clubs to be using health savings account dollars, which, by the way, already pay for weight loss programs. So if there's someone whose company authorizes them to use an HSA card, they can actually use that for these weight loss programs, and sometimes up to $300 or $400 a month. So that's going to be another huge boon as health clubs understand how they can utilize the specific codes that are available for these types of services. So,
and for these type of services, Eric, do you need to have any type of medical license to secure the weight loss, to be able to use the HSA cards? Not a lot of people understand that basically what it is it's pre-tax dollars.
It's pre-tax dollars,
and you get your paycheck, and then a big chunk, 30%, 50% is taken out, and then you spend your money on your health club membership.
Right, but the codes that I'm talking about are actually commercial codes. They're not medical codes. They're not physician codes or any of that. They're actually codes that can be put into the front desk computer that can be utilized when a person swipes their HSA card. And so they're called MCC codes. And I think that when more and more health clubs understand that they can put these codes into their front desk computer, and whenever someone comes into the club for a weight loss program, a weight loss for life program, they can use these codes. And if they're not used by the end of the year, most of that money goes away. They have to start back over again at the beginning of the year. But again, an unprecedented opportunity financially for
and
many
how
people.
do health clubs find out about these codes?
Well, I work with a company in Phoenix, Arizona called Life Core Group, and it's lifecoregroup.com. And Jason had some information at IDEA, and I speak about his program all the time. So lifecoregroup.com is probably, and I'll put it in the chat box here too. He's already working with clubs right now to get
great.
these programs
Thank
going.
you.
So I'll tap it in right now.
Okay, thank you so much. And Renee, you were about to share something with us.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the financial side, and I will say I am practitioner to researcher, so I'm not going to act like I am the expert on this panel, but I will say from a health psychology hat, we need to remember that I do think that even though affordability is something to consider with training, I do feel that each person needs that initial personalized touch, and how you can build that into your models is critically important, and then determine the pathway from there. But I will also say, in terms of spending dollars and the opportunity, we also have to realize that these medications right now are extraordinarily expensive. They are not covered by all insurance plans. We have a real issue with folks only being on them for about 3 months if a job changes or it drops, or they don't have the access to the spending accounts like they want. And they are making decisions in terms of, will I do X or will I pay for a medication from a consumer standpoint? So I think the shifts can be more complicated, and we need to be open and realize that there is truly an accessibility issue around this right now. So it's just something that as a health space and mental health space of humans, we need to remain in the forefront of our thinking.
Yeah, and Jim, how are they operating this at Lifetime? And have you instituted it at even a trial level to and experience some results that you're going to try to carry out through all the different lifetimes?
Well, yeah, we're already have begun our process of our beta site. Took us about 6 months to refine because, as you know, if you've been in a lifetime, I think the philosophy is, we measure 3 times and then we cut once. So we have the patient journey, we have that client journey just mapped out so that we know they're going to do better. I think the GLP-1 issue is there's a national shortage, whether you look at Wegovy or you look at Manjaro or you look at any of the compounds. And I think I'm a clinical pharmacist. I've educated for the Professional Compounding Centers of America. I mean, compounding pharmacies have saved a lot of people from having this national shortage, and it's also a much more reasonable cost, and it's a much more flexible dose. Obviously, you get a lot of pushback from the branded compounds that are like, oh, hey, we're the only ones that work. But the reality is they're very they're similar compounds. They do work. Many physicians have been relying on the compounded solutions because patients could not afford. To Renee's point, you're talking about an $1,800 prescription that does not get covered. That could be a third of a person's salary or their spendable salary. So so I think there's incredible issues around that, and so we've kind of really worked towards using reputable, nationally recognized, high quality compounding pharmacies so that we can democratize the use of these more and not only make it available for the people that can most afford it.
There's a wonderful podcast. It's called Acquired. You guys can look it up on it's fantastic. And I believe the January issue of Acquired, they do it monthly. It was on Ozempic, and it was the development, and it was just fascinating. So I highly recommend you guys, if you want to hear the history of the whole drug and you want to hear, it's pretty fascinating to see what's going on there. Now, specifically to drill down a little bit into the effectiveness of particular training, would you guys recommend cardio training or strength training? And what's your thought about that? Who wants to take that one? That'll be fun. All right, Eric, here we go.
Let me unmute here. Well, I'm a programming guy. I've been doing this for 30 years. Diabetes, high-risk pregnancies, cancer, end-stage renal disease. And I spent many years at the university working with people in the workers' comp side. So I've developed this big bowl of soup here, and I put things in it for 30 years. I think that the strength training is incredibly important. And I'm going to tell a brief story that one of my professors, Vic Catch from the University of Michigan, told me when I was in college. This is before I even thought about being old. Now I am. He said, when a woman's 80 years old and she can't get to the bus, she's not going to run down the block to go catch it. She's going to wait for the next bus to come, but she's got to be strong enough to get up the steps. And that's such an amazing thing. And I look at this whole weight loss issue is that the strength training is going to provide. Renee used the word functional training a few times yesterday and today, and to provide these people with this functional ability while they're losing weight, while they're losing some lean tissue, is critically important. Am I a fan of cardiovascular training? Yeah, but I don't think it's as important as the strength training here, because some of the clients that I work with, Monarch Health Clubs, Revive in Minnesota, Ultimate Performance, these people are all looking at what is the best way to mitigate that lean tissue loss while they're on specific dosages. And one of the, I'd love Jim to do sort of a dose response. If you're taking a lot of GLP-1, are you losing a higher percentage of lean tissue? I'm assuming yes, but he probably knows more about that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a direct dose response curve to it, but I think without a doubt, you're going to get more rapid weight loss the higher you go with your dose, right? And that's the big issue that I've seen over the last 4 years and have mean, honestly, have taught now well over 1,000 physicians on programs with this, is how do we start to, rein that back? Because, it's not just an obesity problem. It is a lifestyle problem. We have to correct the insulin receptor relationships. But I mean, if your stress hormones are high, if you're not sleeping at night, if your sex hormones are out of balance, all these different things can influence and be cofactors in it. So if all you do is ramp up to the highest dose of Ozempic or Wegovy or the GLP-1 du jour, yeah, you're going to lose lean mass and fat mass. You'll lose less lean mass if we have seen already that if you train. I'm talking with physicians and measuring DEXAs. Now, this is clinical data. This is not a trial, which we'll be pulling together that data, though, because we have that kind of, we've got that ability. But, I think it's important to realize, I think the most important part of that is, honestly, Eric, is it's easier to come off the drug because you have to realize that drug's working for 6 days to keep you nonstop performing that, glucagon-like peptide function or the gastric inhibiting peptide function. The higher that dose, the more that receptor becomes dependent on that drug to do it. So getting less and being able to retract it back as we've learned lifestyle and behavior and exercise, it's going to make it a lot easier and less risk of that fat regain.
Yeah.
And I know that
you were talking about some of the research.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fascinating because I had read the same article you had read, the research where it documented that no matter how much strength training you do while you're on the drug, it's not really going to affect the volume of musculature, but it might improve the action, the effectiveness of the musculature,
Absolutely.
which might help you catch that bus, Eric. But Renee, please share on this.
No. So I think that we should be clear, like one thing too, and for folks listening, lean mass and muscle mass are not the same thing. So we want to use those terms correctly, which everyone on this session has been doing so far, which makes me so happy. Muscle mass is a component of lean mass. And we know from decades of doing lifestyle, even related weight loss, whether it's for obesity treatment or general weight loss, you cannot completely attenuate lean mass. There's always typically around a 10 to 15% loss because you don't need it. It's not metabolically healthy. You've reduced your adipose tissue, so you don't necessarily need that. Now, good or bad, we know as exercise professionals in this industry, doing the work to improve the quality of the tissue always trumps, right? It's important no matter whether they're losing weight or not losing weight metabolically. So of course, we're going to recommend that piece of it. And yes, the estimates are correct, about 25 to 40% lean mass loss on these medications. I will say tirzepatide, which is Mounjaro or Zepbound, is definitely doing better. And the newer agents, retatrutide, that's in phase 3 training, is looking really good. Myostatins are being added to help with this. So if we're focusing on quantity, we're missing the game because pretty sure agents are going to come out that are going to help with that. It still remains quality. So people are feeling and functioning their best, and they're correcting, as Jim mentioned, all of the metabolic dysfunction and other factors that may be happening in a person with obesity or any human being that is out there that may be taking these drugs.
Wonderful. And Mike, you had done that research. I was really fascinated by that. You had about 500 people that you spoke to about the fat loss. Emotionally, what are some of the other things that are coming up in your research?
Yeah, so I wanted to answer some of the open questions, which was so of those people that I spoke to, I asked how many of them were actually members of the gym. And 59% were actually reported back being members of the gym. Same data came back specifically around reported exercise usage. It was more than doubled in that. And then obviously I mentioned the 50% that wanted a coach. One part that I did address in there was around gym intimidation and confidence. How intimidated are you or were you within the gym, which was part of something we talked about here. And I think gym intimidation is still a thing to factor in here because I believe the numbers go up to as high as 68%, depending on who you look at. And I've seen as low in numbers as 37. I've always said as the gym, we got to figure out how to sell confidence before we sell memberships. right? Because it is really hard for people to get in there, and whether you like it or not, people are starting with this drug in some situations. And in many situations, it's giving them the confidence to try to walk in back in those doors or go to those places. I also think it's important to understand that there are people that are going to be doing this outside the gym, right? Workouts take place in sort of a hybrid model. And I think one thing is, I saw a note over here on the webinar chat asking about physician oversight and things of this nature. One thing that I really like to think about with this is that obesity is a team sport, right? It's not from the trainer, it's not just the doctor, it's not just the RD, it's not just the drugs. And I think if you go look at any anti-obesity specialty clinics, they'll be the first one to tell you it's a team sport, and there's multiple components that go to this.
Yeah, that is a definite. Jim, do you have any specific protocols that you found to be more effective? Meaning how much training, how often?
Once again, that's kind of individual because people come into it with different levels of stamina, resiliency. Some people are, fairly fatigued. So, our trainers try to put together, obviously strength training is a component to it. Just movement is a component to it. People that are living to 100 years old are just walking up 19-degree inclines in Sardinia, right? So, it's one of those things that for me anyway, and my belief has been all along, any movement is good movement. Then when we start to structure that movement, we need to do it to the tolerance point of the individual, and that's what we do. So that being inclusive of, strength training, some other types of movement, stretching is incredibly important. Getting people to be mobilized. A lot of times when people are really overweight, they've really created a lot of inflammation and ischemia in their joints, especially their hips. And so, yes, the pain goes away. We can begin to mobilize them again. They're able to move better. They can participate more in activities like pickleball or whatever else they want to enjoy doing. But I think we still have to go back to, we need to develop programs, but we need our programs to breathe. They need to breathe in the ability of that person to be able to do it. And first of all, not feel overwhelmed. And second of all, not feel defeated. So if we can keep them from feeling defeated and keep them from feeling, not being overwhelmed by it. Hey, I want you to do these 3 things, right? If you're a Spartan, like I like to say, you could tell me, Renee tells me to do 10 things. And I'm going to say, Renee, don't you have 12? Because I'll do 12 if you give them to me, right? But a lot of people aren't geared that way. So it's all about that breathability. And I think that's what we worked really hard, just because I've been working with clients in personalized, care for 40 years now. And I realized from just dogmatic programming to breathable programs makes a big difference.
And I really like, somebody brought this up in the chat, overuse. Thin people just saying, I've been trying to lose these 5 pounds for the past 20 years. This drug's going to help me do it. And then I read about Ozempic face. And it's like, you've got to be kidding me. Anybody who loses weight is going to have an Ozempic face. Things start sagging, and it's not just about sagging in your face, sadly. But have you seen, or Mike, have you read anything about individuals that are thin taking these drugs because they can afford the $1,800 a month?
Yeah, I hear stories of people that say they're on it, and I'm like, why? Right? You're already 130 pounds, you're going for an extra 10. And I think that's obviously, I always sort of go back to and say, obviously, social media and celebrity, right? Celebrities say something, do something, people tend to follow, right? Interesting stat that I came across was between 43 and 53%. There was 2 different points that I read about this that were interested in the drug. The interest level in the people that are known is extremely high, right? Back to your sort of Ozempic face. So recently, I think it came out, the report was that plastic surgery is up 9%, with a direct correlation back. And I think the patient population there is roughly around 20% of the patients are on GLP-1s.
Oh, that's a little scary. But if
Well,
we're talking sorry, Jim, please go ahead.
No. I mean, you brought up, we get into the kind of the plastic surgery side. We have a whole aesthetic side to this, where we have people in red light therapy to keep their skin from stretching and using certain treatments that will help them to, hopefully as they're losing weight, be able to remodel their body in less drastic situations. So I just think that I just wanted to bring that up, that we have a very strong aesthetics component that actually is built into it, because as people are changing and they get positive self-image, they want to start to see, well, what else can I do? I want my skin to be brighter. I care about the way I look now, right? And I thought that was a great point by Mike related to what's going on the cosmetic side. I don't think it's just the Ozempic face and Ozempic butt. I think in general, those folks are saying, hey, I'm starting to look good again. I'm going in there and doing that procedure I always wanted to do.
Well, speaking, I don't know if Ozempic buzz is a good way to segue into this, but I do want to thank our sponsors. I really want to thank our sponsors. We're working with Zen Planner, and they're part of Club Automation, and they've been very helpful to help smaller facilities, boutique studios, as well as independent health clubs to assist them with their CRMs and management. I believe we have a video. Thank you so much, Dawn.
Is your fitness business ready for a boost? Zen Planner is here to help. Our software simplifies success by handling the heavy lifting in your operations. Designed by industry experts, we provide tailored solutions that let you focus on what matters most. Fuel brand loyalty and turn your passion into profit with our lead-generating tools. Zen Planner supports your business journey every step of the way. Visit zenplanner.com today.
Thank you so much. I love it. We can't provide this educational information without the vendor support. And thank you, Zen Planner, for helping us. We appreciate this. So I'm going to kind of drift back into training. Now, you guys have a lot of the science going on. How can an independent health club, how do they advertise something like this? Mike, do you have any, you seem to be quite into the finance and the marketing. How do we advertise that we're offering this type of programming to deal and support people that are on their weight loss journey?
Yeah, so it kind of comes back to, you got to speak the language, right? Which in essence is you got to get their attention first and foremost. And then at the end of the day, if you're providing a lifestyle change, right, you're still doing the components of resistance training, cardiovascular, nutrition, supplementation, education, and things of that nature. I think you've got to go out there and sort of market around the message. And I'm going to probably, you might not like this, but I'm going to say around yo-yo. I think everybody sort of understands the yo-yo that they've probably gone through in life. And so some of that messaging might resonate with them. I'm not saying it's a yo-yo program specifically, like that type of thing, but I think you got to start to message around that you have the ability to assist. I don't think you have the ability to prescribe, obviously. And I also think that there's an opportunity to potentially partner with other healthcare practitioners to figure out what that program mix could look like specifically with their patient population.
I think the partnering is key. I think, and honestly, I think the partnering with the medical community is key, and that will encompass plastic surgeons. That might encompass dentistry. That might, because when somebody feels better, if they've lost this extra weight that they've been carrying around because they felt they've tried so many different things. And I think, Renee, you'll also support me in this. These people try, I'm thinking of my cousins, over and over again, try different things. It's not like this is an intentional decision. They have tried different things, they've failed. And we need to get involved with therapy. It's very important to have that component. Jim, does Lifetime have a therapy component going on with this type of program?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because we have a significant, I would call it mindfulness / therapy piece that gets people on the right path. I wouldn't go as far as to say, we have full-blown psychotherapy and EMDR sessions running, right? But we do have a, kind of a mind-body component that is actually pretty robust. And so once again, we're trying to just surround the person with all the tools that they need. right? That's what we're really looking to do. And even orthopedics. I mean, people with their joints hurt, you got to find a good ortho, right? It's all of those aspects. And, we already do hair and we already do all those kind of great things that make you start feeling better on the outside too, which is kind of important. So.
My favorite place to get a manicure is Lifetime. Because then you get your manicure and then you go into class and you work out. It's fabulous. Yeah, that's, I'm showing you how intelligent
I haven't done that, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And Renee, can you share about that, about developing a whole team? I did a wonderful thing. I go to the Mayo Clinic and I do what they call an executive checkup. And it's like 2 days, every hour in the hour, you are seeing every different doctor and they talk to each other. And I think it's fascinating. And I don't think everybody can afford to fly, to Rochester, Minnesota, but it's really nice if I can drive over to my local Lifetime and I can it almost feels like a concierge service that I'm getting.
Yeah, no. And, you're exactly right. Comprehensive care is critically important, and comprehensive medical management. And I think the point about behavioral therapy, we all, maybe it can't be in our same building. And if we have smaller spaces and gyms, we don't have the resources, or our patients can't afford it all to be in-house in a comprehensive program. We need to be ready with our referrals. We need to know that clinical psychologist that's ready to help down the street, that trusts us as trainers and professionals and owners and operators, that orthopedic, that whomever it may be. You all should be looking into American Board of Obesity certified physicians that specialize, and endocrinologists that know these medications and are treating patients specifically with obesity and creating relationships. And I'm going to say this, and I'm not popular when I say this, and I'm okay with that, because as someone that's worked in obesity for 25 years myself in the exercise space, our clinicians don't trust us right now because we focused on weight loss and having solutions to weight loss, versus we do stuff really, really well. And if we want to be on comprehensive care teams, we need to open our arms, not just to patients, but to collaborating with everyone and creating robust relationships and knowing when it's time to refer, or seeing red flags in patients that are coming in. And, we need to do better, not promise solutions, but promise support.
Oh, I think that's fantastic. And Mike, you're nodding your head. Are there other things that we can do for the fitness community to embrace people when they're on their weight loss journey?
Probably tons of things we could do to embrace people, right? We've been trying to do that for a long time. So I think one of the things that I would point out is there was actually some data that came out around GLP-1 support programs and what the consumer wanted to see. And 57% reported diet, 43% reported exercise habits, 35% stress and anxiety, and 22% genetics. And so I think it's a variety of things. You can't just take them on the floor and work out with them, right? They're looking at things in more of a holistic manner. And so whether you're able to provide that service, if you're not, don't try. But obviously, if you have the ability to extend above and beyond just the exercise, there's a need.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to ask Sean, our wonderful creative director, to show a little video that we put together on Ozempic. So here we go. So I want to thank you guys. We lost Eric. I really don't know how, but we lost him. And I know that he wanted to mention that a great way to start people on their fitness journey, if they're looking to start and focus on a little bit of fat loss rather than just weight loss, is to get them in the pool, because of the softness on the joint and the buoyancy effect and the hydrostatic pressure and the cool environment. And we don't even care if they're wearing a bathing suit, a bikini, a one piece. They can wear a big t-shirt and they can work out in a very comfortable environment. So anyway, I would like to thank you, Mike and Renee and Jim, for joining us, and Eric, wherever he is. And thank you, Sean, for running this wonderful webinar. And thank you all for joining us. Look for your recording. And also, we look forward to seeing you at our business summits that are held at our Mania conferences. So stay in touch with us. And thank you very much.